Today we're going to be finding the mean, but this time it will be from a table of data. So have a look at what's on the screen here. You'll be given this information and it will ask you to find the mean. The reason it's quite different is it's not a list of numbers anymore. This time someone's got all the data and put it in a table for you. And while that's quite convenient, it means that we can't just do our old trick of adding up all the numbers and then dividing it by how many there are. There are quite a few different steps involved. So today, I have a couple of colors handy and I'll show you a step-by-step way of how to get from this table of information to finding the mean. The other thing, and you might even want to put it in brackets next to your heading, this is an estimate of the mean. It actually doesn't give you the exact mean. There's no way of finding out the exact mean. This gives you an estimate. So this table has the weights of a group of athletes from the Olympics. Picture it's a team, it's all the Australian Olympic team standing around, and the officials need to know their weights for their sports they're doing. And this is the table of data. So what it's telling us is that between 60 and 70 kilos, there were 5 athletes that weighed that much. Between 70 and less than 80 kilos, there were 7 athletes that had that weight. That little less than sign is really important, so make sure you include that in your data as well. So copy down that table and have that information handy. The other thing you might just want to note is I've called it weight, that first column, because that's the example I'm using, but the term for that column is called the class interval. So sometimes if it's just a ordinary book question and they don't give it a story or a scenario like I have done with the Olympics, that heading will just say class interval. So I want you to be familiar with that term if it comes up. So make a little note of that on next to your table as well. So pause if you need to and copy it down, and then we'll start going through the steps next. So step 1, draw a table with these headings. So 3 columns, midpoint, frequency, and the last one says midpoint times frequency. That X is at times. To find the midpoint, it's the middle number of the weight column. So basically, to find the midpoint, you have to find the middle of 60 and 70. I'm sure you can do that in your head because they're quite straightforward numbers. And the frequency one, you've already got that information. You just copy that down from the left-hand table. And then for the end, you've got to times those 2 numbers together. So I'll do the first one now for you as an example. If you want to pause it now, try and just do the top row first as an example, and then you can see if it's the same as mine. That's what it should look like. The midpoint, so the middle of 60 and 70 is 65. Frequency, I just copied that number from the left-hand side table, and then 65 times 5 is 325. So that's how you need to fill in the whole table all the way across. Just a little side note, and you might want to make a note of this too. To find the midpoint, you add up the numbers. So you do 60 plus 70, and then you divide it by 2. That equals 65. That's handy to note if the numbers in the class interval, that left-hand column, if they're really tricky numbers, you add them up and then divide it by 2, and that tells you the middle, like you do for the median, because that's the middle as well. Okay, pause it, fill in the rest of your table, and then come back to see if it looks like mine. Here's what the filled-in table looks like. Check that every single number is the same as mine, particularly the last column, because it's really easy when you're typing it in your calculator to do a little calculator error and end up with a different answer. And then it stuffs up all of your working out. So check every single number, and if it's the same, I want you to add 2, and I'm color-coding them, I want you to color-code them as well, extra boxes down the bottom of your table. Trust me with the colors, it just makes it easier for the last step. There's only 3 steps. What I want you to do with these colors, and you can use any colors you like as long as you're consistent, add up each column and put the totals in that box. So add up all those frequency numbers and put the answer in that red box. Add up all those midpoint times frequency numbers and put the total in that green box. Do that now. There are your totals. If you got the same as these numbers, it means that you are on the right track. Only one more step. Step 3, this will find the average weight of my athletes. That's the whole point of this. I'm trying to find the average weight of all my athletes. I've got some real light ones and some big heavy weightlifters at the other end. I want to find the average. See the colors? It makes it really, really straightforward. Whatever number's in that green box goes on top. Whatever number's in the red box goes on the bottom. That's a fraction or a divided by. So basically, it's green number divided by red number. And if you do that, that will tell you the mean. If you want to be really fancy, and I want you to be really fancy, write your answer in a sentence. So state your answer. This question's about athletes and Olympics, and we've got their weights. See if you can just write, it's only going to be 4 or 5 words. Put your answer into a sentence. Go. That's what your working out should look like. And if you wanted to put it into some sort of context, instead of just writing 89.44, definitely put kilograms on the end because we're talking about weight. And say that the average weight or the mean weight is 89.44. Okay, that's it. Try and have a go through the book questions.